Hey, it's Craig. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Canadian History X early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Canadian History X. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking to a Canadian music legend, Andy Kim. This is a man who has had a long career, several hit records. You've heard his music. You've heard Sugar Sugar. You've heard Rock Me Gently, and many more. He's really a great person to talk to. I was really pleased that I was able to get an interview with him. And you know what? We're going to get right to that interview because he has an amazing life story that I think you'll all enjoy. But before we get to that, on July 26th at 3 p.m., I'm going to be hosting a Zoom history conference on the 1913 White Hurricane in the Great Lakes. This is a hurricane-ish type of storm that killed 250 people, sank 19 ships, and was just a terrible event. And it's going to be really interesting. Registration is $5 or free for my patrons. And if you want to be a patron, you can be a patron for as little as $3 a month. And you just go to patreon.com/CanadaEHX. But if you want to register for the conference, you just go to CanadaEHX.com and click register. All right, let's get to that interview.
I guess first question, how did you get involved in music? Like, where did the interest first start to kind of come from?
Oh, I think it was more the escape that I guess it's basically my transistor radio, and growing up in Montreal and found by accident radio stations like WABC in New York and WKBW. Also, I have two older brothers, and they had 45s, and they were really into music. So growing up, I was inspired by what I was listening to, but it's really, ironically, it was the disc jockeys, how they talked about the artists. Because if someone had a hit, they would play it, and you heard it 10 times a day, or how long, on any station that you were listening to. Mm-hmm. And I found a variety of radio stations in the U.S. that beamed into Montreal, and especially at night, and it gave me an opportunity to hear all those great disc jockeys talk about the artists. And so it was basically music, and it was basically a lifestyle that they talked about, what the artists were doing, where they were performing, and all of that, and so that's where my inspiration came from. I didn't own a guitar. I didn't own a piano. I had never picked up an instrument until the dream started to happen that I would love that life.
Was there anybody that was kind of any musical acts that really were a big kind of influence on you in those early days? Other than the acts that you saw on Dick Clark, American Bandstand, and the Ed Sullivan Show, and it was mostly the artists that fascinated me. The music itself just kind of owned me. I just became glued to melody and lyric, and it was a discovery when I started thinking, well, how is that record actually sounding like this? Like, in other words, what happened that I was able to receive that information? I've never really thought about it until we were talking about it now. It all kind of came crashing in at the same time, mm-hmm. And it just made me want to be part of that world, whatever that world was.
And so you kind of, save the money, and you get the guitar that's got maybe 2-3 strings on it, and the neck is warped, but it doesn't matter. You actually started to, at least I started to build the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I've dreamt my life, and I don't know how else to put it on, or how else to explain it, rather. It's kind of like, it's kind of been magical.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how to tell someone, you've got to do this and you've got to do it. That's the mechanics of it all. But what's the inspiration? What takes you to a place that says, I want to do this? You don't come from a family that has a piano and a guitar, or the banjo and a harmonica in the living room. It's tenements of Montreal. It's just another world, Mm-hmm. Your playground is not a park, it's the alleyway. So for me, I've always felt it comfortable to dream my world, to believe that what I really hoped for was a reality. And then it became a reality, and then you start selling records all over the world, and you travel the world, and I'll be honest with you, I pinch myself today when I look back at any time that I created something or had the opportunity to perform somewhere. Like, wow, I'm part of that family of artists, whether it's musicians or whether it's sculptors or painters.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said I just wanted to be part of the playground of those people that inspired me and are inspired artists. I wanted to be part of that playground. I didn't want to own it. I didn't want to be captain. I just wanted to be a part of it.
In those early years prior to 1968-69, when you're kind of honing your craft, your songwriting, what were those years like as you're starting to get your name out there?
It was surreal. My success was kind of surreal to me, and I really didn't get it. I understood that my music was getting played in all those stations that I listened to. As I said, the Buffalo station, the New York station were actually playing my record and mentioning my name. But there was a part of me that felt I was in over my head, because I was the dream that I had to be part of the Brill Building or to be part of radio was starting to come alive, but I really was not able to understand the pulse of it all. So I just kept writing, I kept making records and kept touring, and eventually, after you do it for long enough, you finally realize that this is my life. This is not just a one moment thing. And the other thing is, in 68, 69, I was always told that you're only as good as your last 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's, it's almost like if you have a hit, well, you have a chance to go in the studio again. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a hit, well, your chances are iffy. So I never took anything for granted and felt very lucky and blessed that, wow, I'm on the radio. So there was that. And so I think I grew into being the person I dreamt about. Am I answering the question?
Oh,
okay,
yeah, no,
target?
absolutely. No, you are. In regards to 68, 69, was the success of Sugar Sugar something that was surprising?
Well, I always loved the song, and I loved the record. I loved the sound of it. there's a stat that someone sent me last year that said that May 24th, 1969, "Baby I Love You" hit the Billboard charts. And May 24th, 1969, the same day Sugar Sugar was released. But Sugar Sugar, nobody wanted to play it, and it only started hitting the charts in the low numbers in July and middle July. And so, it was the year of Woodstock. There was the year we're going to the moon. There was the year of there was such a thing as the Hong Kong flu. I don't know if you're old enough to know, but you should read about the Hong Kong flu in 1969. So there was a lot of stuff going on, and obviously, "Baby I Love You" became an instant hit, and "Sugar Sugar" was, I would sing it all the time. I would just when I was home, or I'd hum it. I'd be walking down Broadway, and it was in my mind. It was in my spirit, and so I was excited about the fact that it was being played. But '69 was like a great year. I know that Bryan Adams and Jim Valance wrote 1969, but I lived that life. and it only became it became a record of the year, song of the year in 1969, much to the dismay of so many people, because they thought it was nothing but a one-hit wonder, until Wilson Pickett recorded it, sold 1 million records, I think went to top 10 in the charts, and then Ike and Tina Turner, and then Bob Marley, and then all of a sudden people respected the song for what it was. And here we are 51 years later. We can travel the world, and if you're 5 or 85, you sing along, which is kind of cool. I don't know how that happened, but I'm grateful that I'm a part of it.
Well, I mean, I've got it on my phone. It's something I've listened to for a long time, so there's a lot of people like me who listen to it as well.
Well, there's something about the atmosphere of that song that kind of takes you away from whatever darkness you may be feeling, or elevates whatever high you're on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's just a very happy song for any occasion, really. How did Rock Me Gently come about?
Well, I had a great run in New York, and things were kind of quieting down in New York. A lot of the songwriters were moving to LA, and so I packed my bags and my dreams, and I moved to Los Angeles. I was without a label. I had no label at the time, and I was on my own. And I don't know, woke up one morning and there's the song. And so I searched around for someone who would produce it. And you're only as good as your last 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so I became irrelevant. So after about a year of trying, everybody turning me down, I decided to come back home to Montreal, and I started my own label, called ICE, long before the beer companies and the government and rap artists and hip-hop artists used that term. And so I wrote a song that nobody liked. I sang a song that nobody liked. I produced a record that nobody liked. I was the only one. And I was lucky enough that I was able to get a little radio airplay, and eventually sold 6 million records around the world. I cried, and then
John Lennon gave me my gold record, and then I really realized at that moment that if you believe in a dream and you don't have a plan B, because I never had a plan B, this is what I was dedicating my life to. And I would not accept no from anybody. I would not accept a maybe. I was so passionate about what I was doing as I am in life. That was the testament of it all. It just was pretty cool to hit number one in Billboard. It was my second one, and it's just, you know, I wake up every morning thanking God for everything, for the will to have a dream and to believe it in front of all the doubters and all the people that kind of looked at you strange, thinking you should go away.
Is it still weird to kind of hear yourself on the radio when you're out and about and then one of your songs comes on?
It was never weird. It was always, oh my God, they're playing my record. I mean, the first time I heard How'd We Ever Get This Way, I was in my mom and dad's kitchen, which was my kitchen, but still it was an unexpected, you know, I heard my name, and then you hear, you know, Montreal Boy and all of that stuff, and that was before CanCon, before the government kind of said that, well, you've got to play a certain amount of Canadian records. So it kind of stood out on its own, and it's exciting. It really is. I mean, the fact that you want to talk to me today is kind of weird, but exciting at the same time.
Well, I do enjoy your music, so I was more than happy to. Kind of in relation to that, what's it like kind of playing with bands that you helped influence, like the Bare Naked Ladies? You know, they're influenced by your music, and then, you know, you're recording with them, and for them it's obviously a very big deal because you influence them. But what is it like to be working with bands and artists that you influenced with your career?
Well, first of all, you got to start off with the fact that I don't think I never thought I influenced anybody. I just was doing what I did it for myself. I needed to be safe, and so the only way I could be safe was to really believe and follow this cinematic dream of a life, and then, you know, Bare Naked Ladies are talented on their own. I think they would have existed without my songs or without my inspiration. So I never think I inspired anybody, to be honest with you. And if I have, then great. Mm-hmm. But I did it for myself. I didn't. I'm honored when someone says, "Hey, man, I love your music, and you inspired me to do this, and now I'm making records and I'm doing this." But you know, I always think about, so what's my purpose? You know, there's a great Mark Twain quote, and it's not. There are two most important things in your life: the day you are born, and the day you find out why. Mm-hmm. And I think I recognized my why before I picked up a guitar. And I think most artists, songwriters feel that way too. You know, it's like, I'm doing this. Well, you're not going to make any money. Oh, well, that's okay, because I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Ask me if I'm happy. That's the important question, you know. Mm-hmm. So if you speak to Ed and the guys and they say that I inspired them, well, would you thank them for me?
Do you feel like there's something that sets Canadian music apart?
No. I will tell you that once upon a time I was able to tell you if it was a record that was recorded in Canada. I could tell you by the head of the tape, jokingly. But I just think artists are artists. I've always believed that artists, Canadian artists, became Canadian only because of identifying. I think I don't know. I don't know if Canada is the only country that says he's Canadian. You know, I mean, I never heard anyone tell me that he's an American. You know, it's music. It's music, and I think that the talent is incredible in Canada. Was always there, and maybe the opportunity or the vision or the ability to create kind of limited you because we're being overshadowed by our American neighbors. But I always was excited to hear all songs, and so I'm not surprised that we have a multitude of incredible artists that continue to make great music. They just happen to be born in Canada. Yeah, but we're influenced by so much today. And I was influenced by the music I heard on my transistor radio. So I'm just hoping that you know, we just recognize the talent and appreciate their upbringing and their heritage. But I think at the end of the day, you don't have a hit because you're Canadian. You don't have a hit because you're an American or someone from the UK. You have a hit because you wrote a hit, or you produced a hit, or you created a hit.
Right. So a few years ago, you were inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame. What was that like?
Well, that was almost surreal to me. You know, it was like they give it to you when you least expect it, and to me it was just the way I felt when in October I was inducted along with Chilliwack and Cowboy Junkies and Bobby Curtola into the Canadian, well, I don't want to say Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's Canada's version. It's the Juno Hall of Fame. It's great to be recognized by your peers. It's great to be after all this time for someone to recognize that maybe your music was part of a foundation for other musicians, but I just think it's the kind of thing they give you when they want to put a TV show together and all that kind of stuff.
So the past few years, past decade.
Now you can't just edit that last sentence and make that. It's everything that comes before it is important. I just wanted you to know.
Yeah, no, I'll include that as well. Look, the past 10 years or so, you've released a couple of albums. Kind of how did those come about?
Well, one of them was an album called Happen Again, and really I had just been away for a long time, and it was really kind of talk about being inspired. I got together, wrote a song with Ed Robertson of the Bare Naked Ladies, and I didn't have a producer, and he said he'd produce it, and we had a top 10 record in Canada with it, and it was the first time that I felt that I became somewhat a little relevant. And I started writing, and then when I had what I thought was the best of my music, I wrote and produced an album called Happen Again. And basically, I probably got the best reviews in my life, but radio had changed, and they weren't really interested in playing Andy Kim. But it didn't matter because I really loved those songs. It's mostly, when they talk about the journey
as opposed to the destination. So maybe one of these days, after I'm long gone, some people will discover it and they'll say, "Oh, wow, this is pretty cool." And the other one, I was just very blessed to meet, Kevin Drew and Brendan Canning of Broken Social Scene, and Kevin and I became very close. And he approached me one afternoon and said, "I'd like to produce your next album." I said, "Well, I didn't think that people were waiting for the next Andy Kim album." He says, "That's okay, because I want to do this with you." And we did it. It's through the grace and inspiration of Kevin and the people that he brought to the studio, which was incredible. I became part of an album that I could not have created on my own. It was his vision that really allowed me to express a part of me that was there, but I hadn't expressed before. And lo and behold, we had a fan in David Letterman, and he invited Kevin, myself, and my band during the last few weeks of his show. And we flew to New York and had a great time.
Looking back on your career, you've had hit records, you've traveled the world. Anything that really sticks out, any major highlights from that time, or has it just been all just one great highlight?
Well, you know what? I'm basically still the guy who listens to a transistor radio. I'm still that person. So whenever I've met someone, whether it's getting your gold record from John Lennon and then being there when he's recording with Phil in the studio at A&M, or having met so many artists that are iconic and other artists whose songs I remembered that, you get to meet Tommy James, you get to meet Billy Joe Royal, you get to meet Brian Wilson, you get to meet the rest of the Beach Boys. It's really kind of a dream come true, and so it's all been a magical, mysterious almost ride. And to think that after all this time, you want to talk to me, I think you're brave, and I thank you.
Well, no, like I said, I am a fan, and I really do like "Rock Me Gently." It's also on my phone along with "Sugar Sugar." So, your music still resonates well into millennial generation.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks.
You're welcome. And my last question, obviously things are a bit up in the air right now because of COVID, but what do you have coming up?
Well, I've had a 6-week tour of Australia, New Zealand postponed till next year. I've had so many shows in the U.S. and Canada postponed till next year, and so I'm along with everyone else. You kind of self-isolate. But I'm ready to break out of the isolation and walk around the real world. I miss my buddies, my friends that you kind of hang around with, and so I think what this has taught us is. Hopefully, is the understanding that something I believed in as a kid. We only have this moment in time. That's all we have. You can plan for tomorrow, but you don't know if an hour from now or a minute from now you're going to be alive.
Yeah. So
just, see the blessing. See the fact that there are so many great, great things. I've been lifelong friends with a couple of friends from Montreal, and one of them has been in a wheelchair since childhood, and he is the funniest guy. He is the bravest. He has an outlook on life that belies his condition. And I think that to me is an inspiration. You know, we're all out here to help each other. Mm-hmm. We're not here alone. You know, I think that's the Canadian spirit, is to understand community and to be part of a community and help wherever you can.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Andy Kim. If you did, please give a rating and review. You can reach me at Craig@CanadaEHX.com, and you can find hundreds of articles on Canada's history on my website. Just go to CanadaEHX.com. Thanks, and we'll see you again next time.